Hey guys, it's Doc here. Just had a question. Are there any genres of comics that you guys have missed out on, or you have read a bunch of classic issues and you kind of wish that series, that format, that type of book had come back? Like DC used to have a massive horror compilation. Um, they put out a lot of horror stuff. They put out House of Secrets, House of Mystery. They had The Witching Hour. They had Phantom Stranger. They had the Jim Aparo drawn issues of the Spectre back in the Adventure Comics days. I miss that kind of stuff. Um, I've talked about it before too that I really, really like the cross-gen book Scion. And Scion was a love letter, I would say, to Prince Valiant by Hal Foster. And Prince Valiant ran for a very, very, very long time. I don't think it's running currently anymore. But Hal Foster poured his heart and his soul into that strip. Um, and I've got a big picture I think I've shown you guys before. And I'm going to frame it when I get into the new house and into the comic room and all of that. It'll be one of the things that's on the wall probably. But it's a strip where he is, I think he's dealing with mermaid women. But the scale and the scope of the old horror books, the scale and the scope of Prince Valiant, you don't see that in scale anymore. Even the New Gods series by Ram V, which should be multiversal epic style, just huge. Jack Kirby's Fourth World should have been so much more than just Darkseid and Orion and Scott Free. It should have caught on a lot more than it did. But there's a lot of different types of books. Like I said, Scion being one that was kind of a throwback. Actually, issue 39, which was Jim Chung's final issue on that title, had a calendar type setup where the book was drawn practically sideways so that you flipped it open and read it like that, like you would read Prince Valiant stories. But there's so many different genres of books that have just been left behind. I'm not saying that I would go out and buy 14 issues a month of Night Nurse or love and romance books. I'm not saying that. But there is a market for a lot of these things. It's just that mainstream publishers like Marvel and DC aren't interested in publishing things like that because that is a book that could be serialized and it could go for 200, 300 issues if given the right creators. And it doesn't seem that Marvel and DC are interested anymore, especially not Marvel, of any title making it to issue 25 or 30, much less letting something live on for 150, 200, 300 issues. But as you can see, Archie is still selling books. And they're still, as far as I know, I haven't read one in them quite a while, but as far as I know, they're still touting the love triangle between Betty and Veronica and Archie. And that's been going on since the 40s. So if that love triangle, and kind of like Peter Parker's love life should be, if they are intent on him being single and not being married to Mary Jane again, then that was part of what made Peter Parker's life so interesting, was the fact that he had all of these troubles and all these girl troubles and going out and, I'm supposed to be on a date with Mary Jane tonight, but I can't because the lizard is out there and I've got to chase him down. And then the next night he would be out with Betty Brant. There's just so many aspects, deeper aspects to comics that I think people have forgotten because the storytelling is written so cookie cutter and so much for the trade that there's not much room left for experimentation in the big two. And that's why I'm so glad that we have so many small independent publishers, because Marvel and DC never would have put out Damaged People by Damian Connolly. They never would have put out Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Horvath. They would have never done Blankets by Craig Thompson. They wouldn't have done any of these books And that's really sad because Marvel and DC, and I'm not harping on them, but they're the two biggest publishers. They could really get a lot bigger market share. They don't have to go the manga route. They don't have to go and change floppies. They just have to reinvest in some of these bygone eras that I think would sell just as well, if not better, than the superhero stuff. Now, you can't do it corny. You've got to do it somewhat seriously, and you've got to put a lot of marketing behind it to let people know, hey, I'm going to bring this back, and here's why you should love it. Here's why you should at least give it an issue or two and see what you've got. So that's just my thoughts. Do you guys have any series or comic book genre that you really fell in love with back in the day and you just don't see it anymore? It can even be the fact that Vertigo went away and now Vertigo is back. It could be the original Elseworlds type stories from DC. Do you guys miss any of that? Would you like to have it back? And if you like to have it back, let me know in the comments, what are some creators that you think would work out if they did a love and romance book, or if they went back and did a Elseworlds book where Batman might be not in the Gaslight, Gotham by Gaslight era, but more so in the Wild West, the American Revolution. Even further than that, you could take Batman all the way back to medieval times. Things like that. And not really a Game of War, Game of Thrones spinoff, but an actual Batman story told in medieval times, where maybe Bruce Wayne is the only one that you actually know. Maybe there's not a Commissioner Gordon. Maybe there's not a, Kurt Busiek did it with the first couple of issues of Avengers when they first came back from Heroes Reborn, and told a really, really great story. And you wouldn't have thought that Morgan Le Fay and King Arthur and all of that would have tied in as well as it did. But to throw something different into the mix every once in a while is really what the spice of life is with comics. So like I said, guys, let me know what genres or what characters or what creators you really miss, and what would you like to see back. Not that I have any control over it, but hey, if we get a email campaign, if we get, what is that website? Change.org, something like that going, then what would you like to see on the shelves that you're not able to pick up and that you'd like to see new stories with? All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. By the way, guys, I've got a couple of different videos coming up. I've finally got the entirety of Crisis, so at some point I'm going to go back and dig deeper in with Crisis 1 through 12, and I also have the entirety of Secret Wars, so that's another set of videos that's going to be coming up. I'm looking to do another, what am I reading, what's on my bookshelf. I've actually got a copy of Blankets by Craig Thompson coming in the mail that I've never read that before, so look out for that. But are there any books that you'd like me to talk about, and not necessarily even in a review format, but just in a format of bringing them onto the channel and getting more, I guess, more eyes in front of them? Because I'd love to talk about more books, and like I said, not even in a review way, but in a way of what makes this book special to you as a reader, and what might make it special to other people. All right, thanks, guys. Catch you next time.